Sam, we were talking about your article earlier. Welcome in, by the way. Love you and love everything about you. And
except my outfit, apparently.
No, I like it. I just, you know what? It almost is the little pink shirt underneath. It almost looks like a little turtleneck.
This is the Super Dad T-shirt.
Yeah. Well,
that's what we're doing today.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
Nice.
Oh, look at you. Hey, for everybody on YouTube. Look at that.
Super Dad.
Here's the deal. If James Harden goes to the Clippers, he's playing with he's playing with a washed Russell Westbrook, a hurt all the time, maybe washed Kawhi, a hurt and washed Paul George. The Clippers are going to be so washed they should change their name to the Drippers.
No, Sam, no.
I got killed for that earlier. The Drippers, because they're so washed. Before we get started, Sam, real quick, a trivia question for you. Would you rather eat a baby lamb or a matter baby?
What? A baby lamb or a matter baby?
Yep. Which one?
Baby lamb.
Damn it.
Yeah, Sam.
Have you been told that before?
No.
Well, do you know what the second thing is?
No, what's the joke? Let's hear it.
Well, you have to ask me what the second thing is.
What's the second thing?
No, I say, would you rather eat a baby lamb or a matter baby?
What's the matter, baby?
I don't know what's the matter with you, baby. See, you just all right. So,
sure you want to do this, Sam?
When are you going back to England?
All right, dude. How is this Harden thing that when you're at the point where Terrence Mann is off limits? Terrence Mann, a first-round pick, which probably won't be that good. I believe a pick swap and salary filler for a guy who led the league in assists last year, scored 20 points, 6.1, I think, rebounds. At what point does James Harden go, wow, maybe I did this to myself?
Yeah, no doubt. It is crazy. Somebody in the comments section of the story gave me a little flashback. They said, do you remember when J.J. Hickson in Cleveland was like the holdup to getting LeBron James help?
I saw that.
Like you see certain situations where, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And then for me, you and I talk about media and journalism all the time. I don't have a dog in the fight, but as I'm writing this story, I do on this particular one, I found myself going, why aren't they just putting Terrence Mann in the deal? Like, I don't get it. And there's plenty of stuff you can criticize on the Philly side, how they're handling it. Fine. But it does make you wonder about the Clippers' level of interest. The other thing here is that, if they want to keep him beyond this season, the Clippers, the only chance they have of doing that is getting him in a trade because of his bird rights. So I don't know. I think both sides are hoping the other breaks. Obviously, Philly, their plan is falling apart a little bit at the moment because James is now acting up, for lack of a better way of putting it. They needed him to go ball out and inspire another team to come into the fray. And at this rate and at this track, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, Sam, was, all along, if we go back to Dame Lillard, and they're not quite the same situation, but Dame clearly stated that he wanted to go to Miami, and then boom, out of nowhere, here comes Milwaukee, and the deal is done. Is anybody else even remotely interested, to your knowledge, in James Harden?
Not to my knowledge. And, on James's side, certainly one of the main frustrations is that if you go back to July when James makes the trade demand, or late June, and then, Sixers president Daryl Morey is talking to teams around the league. I don't know all the particulars, but the accusation is that, that he set the bar so high in talking to other teams that he effectively scared everybody off right out the gate. And, and those teams, not only haven't come back to the table, but you have, and again, this is from Daryl's critics without question, but you have this idea that he can be difficult to deal with in a trade, and that a lot of teams are just not interested in going down that road. So yeah, right now it seems like it's only the Clippers.
What about Miami putting the Lillard package together for Harden as a dark horse? Is any chance that happens?
I mean, I actually asked about that specific element yesterday, and my understanding is the message from Miami is still that they're not pursuing. So, that speaks to, I think, partly what's in their cupboard asset wise, not necessarily having what Daryl is identifying is because the thing, again, we don't pick sides. The Sixers, even best case scenario right now, are trying to pull something off that I think is going to be very difficult. So let's say the Clippers say yes to the deal that, as I reported yesterday, that Philly has said this would get it done. So Terrence Mann, unprotected first round pick swap, matching salaries that are by all, from all involved, those salaries, those players don't truly matter. Those are just matching salaries. So that trade, right? Clippers say yes, sounds good, we got a deal. The Sixers then still plan on and want to try to take all that stuff and then some to go get another guy. Now, admittedly, I don't know who that guy is. It is very clear they know who that guy is. Maybe two guys, some speculation about a Zach LaVine type, DeMar DeRozan, somebody like that. But it's not a now thing. It's a little bit later in the season thing. So, there's part of me that's like, I do sympathize with Philly a little bit where, man, like you're going to try to get this trade done. And then Embiid's going to be by himself in terms of superstars for maybe a couple months. And then you're going to have to, hope that next team goes ahead and takes your deal, so they're not even doing this James Harden trade and then turning a new leaf. This is just phase one.
So Sam, what does Philly do in the short term here while James Harden is still technically a member of the Sixers? Showed up at one practice, one workout, has not been around reportedly in Houston. What are the ramifications? What do they plan to do if Harden continues to be a no-show?
Yeah, I mean, they gave kind of the stock answer yesterday about how they'd give him a chance to explain himself, but there's not really any explaining. He's protesting. So I fully expect him to start losing a lot of money if this continues. If you go back to the Ben Simmons holdout with the Sixers, that money was in the neighborhood of $20 million. Now, they had some sort of arbitration with the union where I believe he got some of it back. I don't know how much, but, James makes $35 million a year. The math is not all that hard. Once he starts missing games, I think Bobby Marks of ESPN the other day had put it at like $360,000 per game. So, that's the road they're heading down. And we did see this coming because when James chose to take part in training camp, we had written at the time that he was playing ball temporarily in anticipation of the Clippers improving their offer to the Sixers. But if the Sixers then declined that offer, which they clearly did this week, then, James was going to kind of start losing his mind again.
Sam Amick with us. It makes you wonder what the recourse, if any. There's just not, I think, enough recourse against a guy like James Harden. It's like if he were going out and playing to the best of his abilities, but the Sixers are like, we're only going to pay you half this week. We're only going to pay you half. We've got some internal issues. We don't really like you. We want you to go somewhere else. Of course, that would be hilarious. That would never, ever happen. But here you have a guy who's guaranteed every single penny. He has a history of this. And my question to you really, Sam, is, and I'm a fan of this guy. You know that. I like him. We've talked about him many, many times. But when this trade was made, we talked about, you remember I said this will probably be the downfall of Daryl Morey. He's going to go down with the ship. He's married to James Harden. He's blinded by it. You mentioned the Ben Simmons situation. He had superstars in Brooklyn. He had a goofy trade situation there. He's got superstars in Philadelphia. He's got this goofy trade situation there. I can't stand James Harden as a player and his attitude. But at what point do we also point the finger at Daryl Morey and say, dude, this is not a coincidence. You put yourself in these spots.
Yeah, I would probably, I don't know, like theme wise, if I'm totally with you, I will say as it relates to the James Harden relationship, which has been the absolute defining moment or defining relationship for Daryl Morey since he traded to get him in 2012 from Oklahoma City. Yeah. And really, he was ahead of the curve on that. James was a sixth man. Daryl saw a franchise centerpiece. He was right. This is funny. All three of us here are parents, right? Mm-hmm. This feels very much like, and I got to be careful not to talk about James like a child. He's a grown ass man. Right. But the nature of the relationship that Daryl and James had in Houston, in which Daryl gave him everything he wanted, gave him power in the type of ways that really nobody else had in the NBA. And I'm talking nobody, literally nobody. Freedom, the ability to weigh in on the roster, the ability to have a different set of rules than everybody else on the team. Like, parenting wise, this feels like, well, if you raised your kid this way, then don't be surprised when they continue to expect that treatment. And what happened this summer, and this is where it does make a ton of sense to me, is that Daryl Morey suddenly changed the way that he interacted with James. He stopped talking to him about the roster. He stopped checking in on him. James is a smart guy, and he noticed, and this is why he read the room and said, oh, damn, he's about to absolutely screw me over in contract negotiations. So James tried to get ahead of it, said, I'm going to opt in, ask for a trade. But that relationship, I think the takeaway for me, if you were an executive, is that there are limits to how much you can give a guy. And especially if you're going to bring him to a new spot and recruit him like Daryl did, like, you got to know that he expects that same treatment over there. And once he didn't get it, you're seeing the result.
Sam Amick from The Athletic joining us. Sam, how about the offshoots of this then for new coach, decorated coach, and Nick Nurse, and then even the star of the team, Joel Embiid? How are they, to your best of your knowledge, processing all of this drama?
Yeah, I mean, good word there, Jay. This is the land of the process. They, Joel, somewhat surprisingly, continues to be patient. I think partly because, and this kind of goes back to what I just weighed in on, James is also smart enough to notice that, Joel Embiid is getting all of the perks that I used to get. So Joel is the guy now, right? And that means even his relationship with Daryl, my understanding is communications at a high level between Joel and Daryl, and that Daryl, to his credit in terms of the power games, has convinced Joel to trust him throughout this process. So he's hanging in. Now you continue to have the rumors about Joel eventually ending up in New York or somewhere else. We'll see what happens down the road. I think Josh Harris is another key figure here. The Sixers owner, Michael Rubin was incredibly close with James Harden, is incredibly close with James Harden, but Michael, divested his part of the ownership a while back, and even did a podcast the other day with Patrick Beverley, where he very plainly stated that he thinks if he was still one of the owners, that this never would have happened. And so now you have, I think worth monitoring is, where's Josh Harris at in this situation? Is he completely patient and understanding with Daryl's approach to this trade? At some point the dam might break on one of these fronts. But yeah, I mean, they're hanging in. The Nick Nurse component, Jay, I was with the Sixers in Colorado 2 weeks ago, talked to Nick about the situation. He's coaching his team. I think he's hanging in there, but this is not what he had in mind. I mean, they absolutely thought they were title contenders. They still talk as if they are. Nobody believes them. But, I think he's just trying to wait it out.
Sam Amick with us. I don't know if unprecedented is the right word, but it's just such a weird, unique situation that you have a first ballot Hall of Famer, again, a broken record, who led the league in assists last year, who's scored 20 points, 6 boards. He still is very much a starter in this league and a contributor that has run his value down so much. Is the secret sauce here, Sam, that is James Harden? Look, I don't want you to tell tales out of school. And what I mean by that, and, we're in a safe space here, is look, writers, nobody has more credibility and more journalistic integrity with a capital J than Sam that I've ever met. But you have to have a relationship with camps. You have to have relationships with people to get information from time to time. So I'm not asking you to bust any of that. Your filters, but does James have the right people around him? Is that what it comes down to? Does James need to go on Oprah or something and sit down and really start the James Harden PR campaign? Like, here's what you guys are missing. Does he have those people around him to tell him, dude, you're losing it PR wise?
I mean, the group around him, and I do know him real well, they're locked in, they're trying to do the best they can do. James is his own guy, what I mean? And not only that, I think this context matters a great deal. You got to remember, that James did not have representation for, I want to say 7 or 8 years prior to hiring this current group last summer. He represented himself. And that actually goes back to, it's kind of a detail that gets forgotten a lot. That goes back to the relationship with Daryl. Like, think about this, guys. On every basketball discussion, but more importantly, on every contract discussion, it was James Harden talking to Daryl Morey. It was James Harden talking to Tillman Fertitta, the Rockets owner, when he was in Houston. James represented himself. And so, then when he tries to get traded from Houston to Brooklyn, he temporarily hired somebody from the Wasserman agency, a guy named Jason Rainey, who heads up their basketball operation. That was kind of a contracted side job for a short-term period. But James has been calling his own shots for almost a decade. And so the agent part only matters so much. In fact, I think, honestly, part of their message to the Sixers is that, listen, guys, like, we can't control James. He's going to do whatever he thinks is best for him. On the media side, I don't know if one of those sit down, pour your heart out things would help. At this point, fans, I think, have by and large made up their mind. It's funny because we all can relate. Like, our kids are such an interesting sounding board on stuff. I mentioned this situation to my 14-year-old son, Landon, yesterday, and he didn't know about the breakdown. And the only reaction I got was him going, "Oh, that's tough. You're making $30 million and you're upset." Like, that's, no one's really hearing this. It matters, can he win the leverage battle within, the Sixers, and can he get where he wants to go? I don't know that the media stuff is going to help him that much.
Talking with Sam Amick here from The Athletic. Sam, did you get a chance, by the way, last night to see the Kings and Warriors?
Yeah, I was there. I was actually down there.
How was that in the building? Because, I mean, look, it's preseason, it, maybe there's not a lot of storylines, but it felt like that turned into something kind of spectacular as far as preseason goes. Great drama. Both teams keeping their guys in, Warriors bringing their guys back in. How was it there? How was it kind of the vibe after the game?
Yeah, Dave says rotten tomatoes last night.
He's done. He's done with this loss. It's crushed his spirit and his soul.
Yeah, it was a little, what's the word? Not very nice of the Warriors is how it felt. I mean, Steph. So actually, I got a good seat for once at Chase Center because the Kings TV crew was not there. We got to sit, or the radio crew, we got to sit in the visiting broadcast booth. So
that's a great spot.
Yeah.
Great spot. And to see Steph hit that dagger three, and forget about just hitting the three. The atmosphere was pretty electric. People going crazy. Kings obviously at one point led by almost 20. Warriors come all the way back. But to see Steph pulling out the nighty-night move afterwards was like, kind of told you everything you need to know about how, even though it was preseason, he apparently has decided that he enjoys, telling the Kings that they're just not going to get the best of him. And considering the way that Game 7 went in the playoffs last year between these two teams, that certainly sparked plenty of memories. And it did feel, even the Kings players said it didn't feel like a preseason game. Now, they weren't, losing sleep, I don't think, after that one. They got good work in, they competed, they played well. But, I mean, it's always funny. They're 0-4 in the preseason. Like, I remember when the Lakers had Steve Nash and Dwight Howard and they went like 0-8 in the preseason, everybody, said it was doom and gloom. And sure enough, it was. Like, it's never a great thing to go winless. So they should probably try to get this game tonight. But yeah, it was a fun game.
Yeah, it's fun, Sam. It was great. And then Steph did the thing when Steph's entire body except his pinky toe was out of bounds, but they somehow reviewed it and figured that was rough. And then, then he hit the three and did the nighty-night in a preseason game while the Kings just completely collapsed. And I mean, honestly, it was Jason's been asking, look, it's preseason, doesn't matter. I get it. But it's a little basketball PTSD, I think, for a lot of Kings fans. Like, dude, I mean, are they going to be our Lakers of the early 2000s? Are we the Sonics to their Bulls? Are we the Jazz to their Bulls? Just it sucks, man. I hate it. I don't think and do we also have to play them 99 straight times? I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, that part's hard. and that's another one obviously coming up in the regular season really quickly.
Yeah.
I hear you on all that. And I do think, listen, the Warriors are not sleeping on the Kings. They saw what they could do in the playoffs last year. And I think more specifically, I told someone this story last night, the legendary Ralph Walker, who now does security with the Kings and who spent his whole career with the Warriors and who was like Steph's right-hand guy, which is a fascinating little twist. He's now on the Sacramento side. When Steph scored 50 in game 7, and I wrote this at the time, Kings go down, Warriors move on, and Steph finishes his press conference. He's walking through the hallways of Golden One Center, and I couldn't resist showing him a text. I've now dropped 2 references to my youngest son. Landon sent me a text because he was mad that he became more of a Kings fan than a Warriors fan, and he was mad that the Warriors won. And he sent a text that was like, Steph's old, he should retire. And I showed the text to Steph, and he let out this like really loud cackle that just absolutely killed me because he acted like he gave a what about what this 14-year-old kid was saying. I think for Steph, the Kings represent youth. They represent the perceived, end of the run for him. I'm not to get too deep, but I do think like there is a connection between Steph Curry keeping the Kings at bay and Steph, continuing his greatness.
We also got my guy Antoine came over from the Warriors too, as security this year too. So that's that. I didn't know about the other guy. I don't know if you know Antoine or not. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I do. I do.
That's what's going on here? Mike Brown, 2 security guys. what is?
I don't know if you heard, but the Kings owner is a little.
Oh yeah.
What the hell is this? When
you start seeing like the popcorn guy from Chase Center.
Sam Amick of The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com or download the app, better yet, and don't feel left out. With tremendous content like what Sam put out yesterday on James Harden, whether it's insider sources, whether it's phenomenal Kings coverage for those of you that are local centric, and so much more. Also, a French painter, father of 2, husband, and neighbor to a guy who probably should put the glass down every once in a while. Sam does it all.
Oh wow! What's he giving you today? Nothing.
What now?
I said, what's the neighbor giving you today? Nothing.
Oh, nothing. He hasn't even popped up yet. I mean, it's not like we don't call him sober neighbor John. That's, by the way, is the pool done?
No, but it's very quiet. Okay. It's very quiet.
Right,
don't bring that up again. That's
not what you said to me last night.
Wow.
When we were talking about it and how angry you were at your neighbors.
Stop it.
Sam Amick of The Athletic. I'm kidding. Sam, take care. Thank you.